Hi everyone, I hope you're having a great week and enjoying this incredible August weather. It's just lovely outside, although my allergies have been a little bit messed up, but it's worth it, right? We are in our Exodus story in our Sunday Bible class stuff, and we're just easing into where Moses and Aaron have started talking to Pharaoh, and it says in the Bible that his heart hardens when they ask him to let the people go, right? So it's an interesting part of the story that, maybe we don't fully understand, and that's okay. We don't have to understand everything that is in the Bible. We can have some faith and trust in God that he has everything under his control. That's something that I'm really leaning on right now, that God has everything under control. We don't have to stress or worry about tomorrow or the future because he's got us in his hands. He's taking care of us. We kind of talked about that last week too. All right. So this story is just a funny, kind of a silly book that we like, and it's an old book. You'll be able to tell by the pictures. It's called What Do You Say, Dear? By Cecil Joslin, and pictures are by Maurice Sendak, who is very famous for many of his books, but especially Where the Wild Things Are. So it's the same illustrator, Maurice Sendak. All right. It says at the beginning, a handbook of etiquette for young ladies and gentlemen to be used as a guide for everyday social behavior. It's got a little dog, a boy, and a girl. All right, I have my drink so I don't knock it over. What do you say, dear? All right, let's see if I can, there we go. You are downtown and there is a gentleman giving baby elephants to people. You want to take one home because you have always wanted a baby elephant. But first, the gentleman introduces you to each other. What do you say, dear? What would you say? How do you do? Is that what you would say if you were introduced to an elephant? It's polite, right? Alrighty, it's a cool picture. You are picking dandelions and columbines outside the castle. Suddenly a fierce dragon appears and blows red smoke at you. But just then, a brave knight gallops up and cuts off the dragon's head. What do you say, dear? What do you think? Thank you very much. He saved her, right? He saved her from a dragon. You are a cowboy riding around the range. Suddenly, Bad-Nosed Bill comes up behind you with a gun. He says, would you like me to shoot a hole in your head? What do you say, dear? No, thank you. That's a very polite answer to someone asking such a rude question, right? You are a nurse and you rush to see a patient because a dinosaur bit him. You bandage him all up and he says, oh, nurse, you have saved my life. Thank you. What do you say, dear? What do you think? I bet you have a good prediction. Well, you're welcome. That's kind of the obvious answer to thank you very much, right? You're welcome.
He's very bad.
He looks like he's thinking about taking another bite out of him, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
You have gone downtown to do some shopping. You are walking backwards because sometimes you like to, and you bump into a crocodile. What do you say, dear? What do you think? What would you say?
I would say no.
Excuse me, please. I would definitely say excuse me if I bumped into a person, but I don't know about a crocodile. What do you think, Joseph?
I think that I would say excuse me.
Joseph's here. Okay, let's keep reading. All right. You are at a wedding party because you are the bride. You have a fine husband and an enormous wedding cake, and you are going to live happily ever after. Only first you are very, very hungry. What do you say, dear? Would you please pass the cake? Very close up. I'm trying to show the whole picture. Look, the little dog wants the cake too.
And can I sit sometime?
Can you sit right up here behind me? There we go. Ah, look, this is a funny picture. You are at the princess ball, and she is telling you a secret, but her orchestra of bears is making such a fearful lot of noise you cannot hear what she is saying. What do you say, dear?
I say that it would be nicer if it wasn't a lot of noise.
Yes, that's true. This one says, I beg your pardon? That's kind of an old thing people used to say when they couldn't hear you. Instead of saying, what? They'd say, I beg your pardon? Sometimes people still say that. That's what I was supposed to say. My mama didn't like me to say, what? Say, I beg your pardon? When you can't hear very well. All right, look at this one. You go to London to see the Queen. She says, oh, you must stay for dinner. We are having spaghetti. So you do. And there is spaghetti for the appetizer, spaghetti for the main dish, and a spaghetti salad. By the time the Queen's guard brings spaghetti for dessert, you cannot fit in your chair anymore and you want to leave the table. What do you say, dear? Too much spaghetti. What do you think you should say?
Too much spaghetti.
This is a polite answer. May I please be excused? Looks like she's saying, sure. Look at the little dog, his belly's sticking out. He's too full, isn't he? There's the guard eating spaghetti too.
Wait, where's the belly?
See the dog's belly?
Oh. He's too full.
You are flying around in an airplane and you remember that the Duchess said, do drop in for tea sometime. So you do, only it makes a rather large hole in her roof. What do you say, dear?
I say you shouldn't go flying again.
I think you need to say you're sorry, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was right.
Oh,
I'm
there's
sorry.
feet right there, see?
It says, I'm sorry. That scared her and her little dog. He's clinging to the light. See?
Yeah.
What do you say, dear?
I say
I'm
that
sorry.
it's sorry.
You are a dangerous pirate, and you have captured a fine lady to take on your ship. Every morning when you untie her so she can eat breakfast, she says, good morning, how are you? What do you say, dear? He looks grouchy.
I say, what, just eat.
What did she ask him? Good morning, how are you? Fine, thank you, how are you? Now he's looking much friendlier. He's helping her eat something, isn't he?
Because she's tied up.
Well, he untied her. All your friends come to your house for a party. The princess brings her orchestra of bears again, and they play 2 dances, but then they want to eat everybody up. What do you say, dear? What do you say? Please don't eat me.
I say don't eat them.
It says that you say, this is the end. Goodbye.
This is the end. Goodbye.
And the last illustration with the little puppy sitting on the bench looking cute. All right, so that was What Do You Say, Dear by Cecil Joslin and pictures by Maurice Sendak. So why did we read that book? Well, sometimes it's just kind of for fun, right? But I did see one thing that we could kind of think about with Pharaoh, because that's who we're looking at in these chapters of Exodus. We're going to be in chapters 6 and 7 this week. And some of the things that I read were God is preparing Moses. That Pharaoh, thank you, is not necessarily going to cooperate with them, right? He's not going to. God's preparing Moses by saying, when Pharaoh says no, this is what you're going to do. when he says no again, this is what you're going to have to do, you and Aaron. So we're going to look at more from those chapters 6 and 7 this week, but you're always free to read on your own or with your parents and see what we're kind of talking about. But, to me, I was thinking about if somebody comes to you, like in chapter 7, verse 8, listen to this part. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, when Pharaoh says to you, perform a miracle then. Perform a miracle if you're really from God. Then say to Aaron, take your staff and throw it down before Pharaoh, and it will become a snake. Okay, stop for a second. First of all, if somebody came to you like Moses and Aaron and said, we're from God and he wants you to let his people go, and Pharaoh says no, what do? God says you take your staff and you're going to throw it down, Aaron, and it's going to become a snake. So then it says, Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and did just as the Lord commanded. Aaron threw his staff down in front of Pharaoh and his officials, and it became a snake. So what do you say, dear Pharaoh? Wouldn't you say, okay, I believe you? But he doesn't. Verse 11, Pharaoh then summoned wise men and sorcerers and Egyptian magicians, who also did the same thing by their secret arts, their own wicked arts. They could do this too, or at least they could make it look like they were doing this, right? So instead of saying, okay, you're from God, I let your people go, he says, hey, come here, you Egyptian magicians and sorcerers, come do your own magic and let's show them a thing or two. So then it says, each one of those guys threw down his staff and it became a snake. But Aaron's staff swallowed up their staffs. His snake swallowed their snakes or their staffs. So what do you say, dear? What do you say? Okay, I think you're the real one. We're going to do what your God says.
I think you're the real one.
I think that'd be the real God's work that could swallow the other ones, right? But no, Pharaoh doesn't. In verse 13, this is going to be the last part we read. Yet Pharaoh's heart became hard, and he would not listen to them, just as the Lord had said. So that's what we're talking about this week. Go ahead and, if you get a chance, read through chapter 6 and 7 with your mom or dad or an older brother or sister, or just on your own, and prepare yourself for this week's story from the Bible. Okay, have a great week. Bye, guys.